Today I'm going to show you the 2 to 4 player tile placing game from FryxGames Castle Builder. Now, if you look at the profile for this game, this is a pretty simple and not very interactive game focused on mechanics. So, with profiles like this, what makes these games awesome is when they have a really cool or unique mechanic, which happens to be what brought this game to my attention. I will show you how to play in just a second, and I'm going to talk about what I like about the game and what's not to like about the game. But fortunately, this game is something that I haven't seen before, which always gets me excited. So let's take a look. Castle Builder is really a rather simple game. Every player has their own player board and a rack of tiles, and players are going to take turns doing one of two things. Either they're going to draw 2 tiles from the face-down supply to add to their rack, or they're going to choose 1 tile from their rack to play onto their board. Now, for placement, there are a few rules. The first rule is that you can't place any tiles in such a way that air would be directly on top of stone, or stone is on top of air, like that. That would never be allowed. But the major restriction in tile placement and the driver of gameplay is that every tile must be placed so that it equals the sum of the 2 tiles beneath it. So 7 is equal to 3 plus 4, 6 is equal to 4 plus 2. So on my turn, if I wanted to place here, I would need to have 13. And I don't have a 13, as you can see, but there is another rule, which is you can discard a tile from your rack, like I might discard this 6, in order to add or subtract 1 from the sum. So 7 plus 6 plus 1 is 14, and I could place that there. Now for scoring in this game, you're going to be scoring 1 point for every floor that the placed tile is on. So in this case, because it's on the 3rd floor, I would get 3 points, and you can even get a bonus for the little gems, so 5 points total. You don't score any tiles that are on the bottom row, even if they have a gem on them, so that would not be scored. Speaking of the bottom row, you can place any tile on the bottom. So for example, on a later turn, I could place a 3 right here, and that would set me up to place a 6 right there. And that 6 would be worth 2 points. Eventually, I'm going to need to draw up. So on a later turn, I might draw 2 more tiles. And that really sets me up for one last example, which is to explain these check marks. Check marks are nice because they can be placed anywhere regardless of the sum underneath them. So that princess could go right there, no problem. It's worth showing you what the end of the game could look like, because the restrictions aren't just sums. You'll see that as I've built up, I end up with these tiles that create air that I can't build above. So right now, if you look at my rack, nothing I have here could be placed in a space like that, because I wouldn't be allowed to do that. So it's a lot tighter than just getting tiles that add together. You also need to get tiles with the right shape. So that would be a legal placement. But as you can kind of imagine, you're going to get to the point where it gets very, very difficult to play. And that happens to also be about the time where the game sort of comes to its own end. It's worth showing you how scoring is handled, because it's not just marking a number of points, but rather advancement on a track. So if I was the yellow player and I played a castle on the third, or a tile on the 3rd story, I would move up 3 points to land here, and then because I've landed on a gem, I get an extra movement and I can go there. And eventually I'll pass this coin. Once I pass the coin, I can take any of these face-up coins, and each coin is going to give a different benefit. Like this one is the thief. It lets you steal a tile off of somebody else's rack blindly. This one is the monk, and the monk is going to award the person with the fewest coins. And this is the tower, or it's a competition for tower, because whoever has the most towers immediately gets to draw 2 tiles. So these benefits are going to benefit any person who satisfies the requirement, whether or not it's the person who took the coin. So I could pass and get to here, and maybe I'll take this coin from the board, but somebody else gets the benefit of the 2 tiles. We're going to talk about this as we go over the review of the game. If you land on one of these tiles, you get to take something from the market. So there are a few tiles that are publicly available, but this is the only way to get those tiles. Otherwise, you're always drawing from a supply of face-down tiles. There's one more element to advancing on this track, and that is if a player is to land on a space occupied by an opponent, then that player immediately moves up 1 space ahead. I absolutely love the core mechanic of this game. I love the placing of tiles based on building a scaffolding of values that will give you sums, so that you're building on top of sums. I think that's really great, not only because it's something I haven't seen before, but because when I'm playing this game with my kids, it reinforces and builds numeracy. My kids are constantly adding as they play this game. And as trivial or as easy as adding might seem, the fact that you play this game and you take for granted that you're just going to be constantly adding, I think is awesome. I enjoy the core mechanic of Castle Builder, but I do have some criticisms. And to understand my criticism, I want to make a comparison. Think of the game Carcassonne, which has been around for over 20 years now. Carcassonne has a great core mechanic, so much so that several expansions came out to give variants on how Carcassonne is played. Now, this game, Castle Builder, doesn't focus enough on the mechanic that I love so much. It feels like a variant of some other game that I don't know about or does not exist. I wish the game was more castle building and less other stuff. So what are the other things that I don't like? There's a few things. First, the track movement is a real distraction for me. The way that you advance on the track, if you land on an opponent's piece, you get a free movement to jump ahead. That means you could watch that board and try to get exactly the right amount of points so that you can jump on an opponent and get free movement space. But I don't want to do that. I don't care about the track. I want to focus my game on building my castle. I want to focus on objectives, making my castle have more windows or making it taller or giving it more individual spires. There are so many cool objectives that could drive gameplay, and instead you're just focusing on getting these coins, which I don't really like. Not only am I distracted by it, but I have these tokens that are aggressive in ways that do not make the game better for me. I don't like the fact that you can steal from another player because there's already too much luck in the rack management of this game, which I'll get to in a minute. But the one that bugs me the most are these coins that say that when you take them, the player who has the most towers or the most windows or something, they get an award, even if that person isn't you. Because when you take a coin, you get to choose which coin you take. You don't have to take a coin that benefits somebody else. But eventually, as they come out, we played a game once where every single tile was exactly the same tile and the player had to take it. But why would I play a game where I'm not incentivized to take the trophy, to take the winning marks? Like, I want every coin to be good for me. I see what they're doing. I see that they want people to be like, oh, look, there's an award if I have the most towers. I want to go for that. But you can't control that because you don't control what you draw. You can do rack management, but if you don't draw any tiles, then the benefit just gets forced to some opponent, not because they played well, but because they just had stuff on their rack that you didn't have. That's not cool. Let's talk about rack management for a second. So on your turn, you can play one tile, or you can draw 2 tiles. The most interesting way to play this game is with a full rack, is just having 7 tiles to choose from. If you have 7 tiles to choose from, then it feels that's where the game is. I don't want to make a decision with 5 tiles. I want all 7. So, the problem with the game is, I can't get 7 unless I spend multiple turns taking 2 tiles at a time. If everybody played the game that way, then we would just spend multiple turns. I take 2, I take 2, I take 2, 2. Oh, does everyone have 7 now? Great, now let's play. Like, why? How come you don't just make it that on your turn, play tiles, and then refill your board to 7? Why not just always have 7? For free, doesn't cost you anything. That would be cool. It would offset luck. It should be done that way. to me, doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense why you're using a turn to draw 2 tiles when really everyone should want 7. That's what I think about that. Lastly, I think I want to talk a little bit about luck, because I understand that the game requires luck. Like, you couldn't just play this game by just taking any tile you wanted. The fun of the game is rack management and finding tiles that add together well. So drawing things and having to deal with that is fine. But there is a optional rule in the rule book that says that if you don't have an exact match, even differing by 1, you can discard any number of tiles from your rack in order to make the sum work out. That should be a decision that players can make. I don't think it should even be an optional rule. It should just be, this is a rule. I like that there are tiles, like there's a few other things in there that like offset the luck. Oh, here's another one. An option is you can start every game with a princess tile or a prince and a prince tile. Princess tiles look like this. They have a check mark on the bottom and a low number, like a 4 on the top. I think the prince has a 6 on the top. Starting the game with this is a great idea, because you know what isn't fun? When you start the game off and immediately the tiles on your board are like this kind of thing, where it's like a 9 and it cuts off and makes a tower. No one wants to start a castle that way. I think there should be, like, at least for the first turn of the game, everyone should be given some tiles that you would want to place. The 3, the 4, the low-valued stuff. Everyone should start the game with that. I understand the need for the luck, but do you have to like start with a blind draw in the beginning? I don't know. It's things like these that make the game feel great but flawed. So I don't know how much I'm going to play the game, honestly. I really like the mechanic. I can't stand the flaws. What it makes me want to do is just house rule the stuff I don't like. Just throw out the track. Everyone draws up to 7 at the end of your turn. But then, like, what am I reviewing, you know? Am I reviewing a board game that was made, or am I just reviewing how I play with stuff that I find? Right? Like, I'm just making it up at that point. Anyway, so that's Castle Builder. Thank you for watching this review. And, oh man, I feel like I was too hard on it. But, yeah. It's a game. That's it. Let me know what you think in the comments, okay? Appreciate that. See you next time. Bye-bye.